Good morning, everyone. I wanted to take a couple of minutes and check in with the activities for this week and make sure that you are on track. Hopefully, last week you completed all of the introduction to the course, the introductory activities, where I kind of went through learning how to write in your academic voice. You were given a sample text to read and analyze. We looked at a sample poem and kind of broke that down for you. And so now we're adding the building blocks to get you ready to start doing your first writing assignment. Hopefully you have started on your short story unit, the one that starting on the 21st, which would have been the end of last week. You should have already looked through the screencast on point of view and the role of the narrator and why the narrator is so important to the story, because the narrator is the lens through how we as readers view the story and view the characters, and it's a pivotal choice because it can change the shape of everything that we see in the story. And some narrators, they're not reliable on their own if it was told in first person, or we get a better picture when we see something from a third person omniscient view, where we can see inside the minds and the not just the thoughts and actions of the characters. So that point of view and the role of the narrator screencast is a pivotal concept that you need to be able to understand. So hopefully you have watched that lecture on point of view and the narrator, and that you understand a little bit more about the role of the narrator in shaping as the reader, our perception of the characters. I also, in this unit, go through the literary analysis, like how to complete a literary analysis. And we kind of have already been doing that a little bit along the way, but I did a literary analysis screencast just to kind of model for you how going through a text and how to annotate a text through the lens of literary analysis. And so I did that in that screencast, and it was on Story of an hour, which is your first text that you're going to be reading. And then I asked you to read Kate Chopin's The Story of an Hour. So paying careful attention to that use of that third person narrator and how it affects our perception of Mrs. Mallard as a character. How can we view Miss Mallard through the lens of that third person narrator, and how the story would be different if it was told from Miss Mallard herself, her viewpoint, or from her sisters, or Richard's, her husband's friend. How would we view Miss Mallard then? And I kind of break that down for you in that those two Story of an Hour text screencast and model literary analysis of Story of an Hour. And so that's probably what you're working on today and tomorrow, finishing up, are those things. And then you're actually going to go right into learning how to write a CTE. And I did a sample CTE for you on the flowers, and really walked you through in that module, really walked you through how to write a CTE, what your claim, taking your claim, what you intend to prove, and then backing it up with textual evidence, and then explaining how that textual evidence supports your claim. And I gave you an example of what that should look like from start to finish. And you're taking your writing prompt, you're adding the literary elements that you're going to be examining, and you're going to turn that into a claim, and then you provide your textual evidence, remembering that you don't do big chunks of text, you do little bits of meat, the best evidence to support your textual claim, and then you explain how that evidence that you presented actually meets your claim, how it proves or refutes the claim that you're trying to make. And so I gave you an example of what your CTE should look like. You will notice that we're following MLA requirement for the main part of the paper: last name, page number, and your running header. Remember that everything is Times New Roman 12-point font. First and last name, EH 102, Mrs. Lloyd, and then the day, month, and year is the proper format for MLA. Then you have your title, and you can, for these CTEs, you can just take the prompt and turn it into a creative title. Mine for the flowers was My Applause of Innocence in Alice Walker's The Flowers. And then I just take that formula that I did when I broke down that claim, textual evidence and explanation, and I turned it into 2 paragraphs. You can do 1 large paragraph, you can do 2 paragraphs like I have, where you have a claim and evidence in the first one, and then your paragraph of explanation. And then at the end, you'll notice that this has to be present. This is your works cited. If you were doing a works cited page, which you'll do for your essays, the entry is exactly the same here, and this is actually the correct citation for that 8th edition Bedford Introduction to Literature. So that being said, this is the correct format right here for all of your citations for this semester. All you have to do once you get that stock part of the citation made is to do just change out your author and your story and your page numbers, and then you can keep all the rest the same, because the Bedford Introduction to Literature, edited by Michael Meyer, Bedford St. Martin's 2016, will not change for the entire semester. If you are using the 11th edition, I'm pretty sure that it is the same editor. However, your page numbers may be different, so make sure that you do the correct page numbers for every single one of your papers. Also, please pay attention to the punctuation within this MLA citation. You have a period after your author, last name, first name, period. You have a period inside at the end of your text, inside the quotation marks. The Bedford Introduction to Literature should be italicized because it's the title of a book. You have a comma after the book title. You have a comma after the editor. You have a comma after the publisher, and you have a comma after the year that it was published, which in this case is 2016. Then you have page numbers followed by a period at the end. And that seems really ticky, but that is correct MLA citation. And the quicker you learn that, the more beneficial that's going to be for you. I did provide a couple of things for you in those modules. If you look under the Essay Resource Help Desk, you'll notice that you have a section on 102 document specifications. It'll teach you about how to set up MLA format, how to set up your page, citation basics, how to create a hanging indent. So that right there, where the first line is completely left aligned and the second line is indented over, is called a hanging indent. And I gave you specific instructions on how to create that hanging indent in Google Docs. Okay, so I did give you a little treat as well. If for this very first CTE and for your very first paper, this works cited information is the correct citation information for your CTE. The Kate Chopin story here is the first citation. So you can actually, for this particular essay, you can copy and paste it at the bottom of your CTE, and it's done correctly for you. And then this is also the first works cited page for your first essay, exactly as it is right now. So that's just a little treat. Those of you that are paying attention to the screencast, those of you that are listening to these, to my lectures, paying attention, following through your modules, then that's just a gift that I'm giving you. And the people that don't do that won't have any idea. So that's just something that I do extra for you. But also included in that, I gave you some MLA citation basics, how to introduce quotations, and we'll talk about that a little bit more before we do your first essay. Because on your short stories here, on your CTE, you don't have to do introducing your quotes. You'll notice that I am just putting it in. I'm dropping it in as spoken text here and there, where I'm not just doing whole lines of quotes. But because we're using just one text, in this one particular one for you is going to be the story of an hour. You don't have to include all those page numbers and stuff just for the CTE. We'll work on that a little bit more when we do your when we do your paper. Okay, so I just wanted to take a couple of minutes. Your CTE number 1 is due on Thursday about 11:59 p.m. As always, if you have questions or concerns, or you're confused, you need a little bit more information, you need a little extra assistance, you know that you can text me or you can call. I'm gonna call. You can text me or you can my brain just stopped working. You can text me or you can email me, and I'll be glad to help you. If your book has not come in yet and you need a copy of The Story of an Hour, please reach out to me via email, and I'll be glad to get that taken care of for you. Have a great week.